As Lily and Jack's case dragged on, he knew he had to do something to keep their story at the forefront of the news cycle.
I approached Advocate Printing and said that we wanted a deal on making up some election style signs, and we went from there.
Over the last week, his advocacy group has been fulfilling sign orders, with all proceeds going towards search and rescue and funding more awareness materials. Some of the children's family members have ordered signs for their yards as well.
The fact that Lily and Jack's family is being less proactive than a random neighbor concerns me, but that's nothing compared to the allegations of substance abuse, domestic violence, child neglect, and CPS visits. So in today's video, let's continue unpacking the Globe and Mail's bombshell investigation into the family and counting the red flags. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation, so if that's your thing, hit subscribe. For exclusive videos, early access to new videos, and other cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. Link in description. If you missed my last two videos, there are linked below because this is actually my third video on the Globe and Mail expose. So there's just one quick thing I want to show you before we dive back in, and it's the rest of that news report, because I think the media is also starting to lose patience with this investigation.
Nearly 4 months ago, Lily and Jack Sullivan, ages 6 and 4, went missing from their home in Lansdowne Station. In a statement to Global News Thursday, RCMP say intensive investigative work is ongoing in relation to the disappearance of Lily and Jack Sullivan, and tips continue to be received. We now have over 700 and are evaluated and prioritized by a dedicated team of investigators in the Northeast Nova Major Crime Unit with the assistance of agencies from across Canada.
We've had this in the past, on a different disaster, the Westray disaster, and everybody descended on us there, and that's not something we want. But in this case, when two little ones go missing, everybody is really keen on finding those children so they can get them home safe and sound.
Kent Corbett's family has lived in Pictou County for generations. As Lily and Jack's case dragged on, he knew he had to do something to keep their story at the forefront of the news cycle.
The more people that are thinking about these kids every day will be the greater chance that we have to be able to bring them home.
Lily and Jack attended Salt Springs Elementary. As the new school year approaches, their school district says, "We have school psychologists, counselors, and regional support staff ready to help any students who are finding it challenging to be back on site at the school without the presence of their peers."
When those kids get back in the classroom to their teacher, it's going to be, did anybody find Jack and Lily? Kids that age aren't going to understand that the adults are doing everything they can. I wouldn't want to be that teacher having to explain that.
But Corbett says the community is still holding on to hope.
They're Pictou County's children now.
So that's the update, and I agree that the case is dragging on, and I even agree that they're Pictou County's children now, because their actual parents don't seem to be doing anything to claim them. Now let's get back into the Globe and Mail expose and pick up where we left off. Just like parts 1 and 2, I'm using AI to read out the relevant parts of it to us so we can react in real time.
"I never thought they would run off on me like that," she wrote. "I'm so distraught." Hours later, and still no sign of the children, Malaya floated the idea that Jack and Lily were abducted. "Many are suspecting they were picked up by somebody," she texted Belinda, "'cause there is no trace of them or Lily's backpack." In the mid-afternoon, a non-encrypted radio channel crackled with voices of emergency responders. "Families brought us to a location not far away. There's a piece of a blanket which the mother says she believes belongs to her daughter," radioed an official. Emergency responders dispatched a canine unit to the site, where they seized Lily's pink blanket, torn and wound around the lower branches of a spruce. It was about 1 kilometre from the mobile home. When a police officer asked Daniel about the pink blanket, he said it wasn't Lily's at first.
Lily and Jack's parents contradicted each other about whether or not the pink blanket found in the woods actually belonged to Lily, and that concerns me. Any reasonable person would have understood just how important accuracy is in that sort of situation. If it doesn't belong to Lily and you say it does, you might have just allocated all the police's resources to a red herring. And if it does belong to Lily and you say it doesn't, you might have just cost your kid their best chance of getting discovered within the first 48 hours. So the contradiction, at a minimum, suggests that at least one of them is being flippant with the facts. But at the worst, it might suggest that they're both hoaxers and they didn't have an opportunity to script their answers to this one question because it was unanticipated. Maybe the blanket didn't belong to Lily, but Malaya, being an opportunist, understood how good it would be to say that it was, because it would send the police down the wrong path. Meanwhile, Daniel, without an opportunity to script his answer with Malaya, said it wasn't, or vice versa. The blanket actually was Lily's, and Malaya understood that the police could eventually determine that, so she might as well just own up to it now, and Daniel decided to say it wasn't. Whatever the case, the parents of missing children contradicting each other about one of the only pieces of physical evidence that might suggest where their kid is a giant red flag. But believe it or not, it's not even the biggest red flag in this part of the expose. Let's keep listening.
Police began pounding on doors into the early hours of the next morning. They came to the door of Daniel's father, Earl Martell, a retired tire plant worker who lives atop a hill in a bungalow he built himself 40 years ago. Officers peered with flashlights into the corners of his living room, jumbled with the craft supplies and Hot Wheels of Daniel's 2 school-aged biological children who often visit on weekends. Earl guided police into the yard, to old campers and a derelict log cabin filled with junk, and to Daniel's older model black sedan in need of repairs he couldn't afford. Police also banged on the door of the home of the children's paternal grandmother Belinda in Middle Muscadobit, about half an hour from Lansdowne. They were looking to talk to her son, who had been living there for the last 9 months after losing his roofing job. But Cody Sullivan hadn't seen Jack and Lily since he and Malaya separated 3 years ago. He'd cut ties after she filed for full custody of the children. Through the night, search and rescue volunteers combed the woods, and helicopters and drones that can detect body heat scanned overhead. Malia was up too, texting with Belinda. "I have reason to believe they may have been taken by someone," she wrote. "They should have found them by now if they were in the woods." The next morning, Belinda set out to help search for her grandchildren. Over the last 2 years, Malia had distanced herself from Belinda. She stopped bringing the children to visit, later explaining that Daniel was jealous and didn't want her going there or giving out the address. The grandmother said she had never been invited to the house. Wow, she says she thought, as she stepped inside to speak to Malaya. Everything she saw, from the junk-strewn yard to the cluttered kitchen, was the total opposite of the neat and tidy woman she used to know. "What happened?" she asked. Malaya opened the low, rumbling, sliding patio door in the kitchen, demonstrating how she assumed the children quietly left the home while she and Daniel were sleeping. "Well, Malaya," Belinda recalled saying, "you're the mum. You know these kids better than anybody. So where do you feel they'd go? What would take their interest? What direction would they go?" She had no idea.
Let's recap the cast of characters, because I think you'll see my point before I even make it. First, we have Daniel, the stepfather, who besides having to take care of Malaya, who's unemployed, has to take care of Jack, Lily, Meadow, and his 2 biological children. Next, we have Daniel's dad, the step-grandfather, who lives in a bungalow up on a hill near the house where the kids live. Next, we have Belinda Gray, who lives about half an hour away from the house and is Malaya's ex-mother-in-law, and she might have reason to resent Malaya for never inviting her to the house to see her grandkids. And finally, we have Jack and Lily's biological dad, Cody Sullivan, who recently lost his job, had to move back in with his mom half an hour away from where his biological kids, Jack and Lily, live. So what's my point? Well, that's a lot of potential suspects if the kids were actually kidnapped. But Malaya somehow has been able to rule out all of them. If you saw my analysis of the first part of this article, you'll know that Malaya informed Belinda that the kids were missing. She never asked Belinda if she knew what happened, or asked her if Cody was home the night before. She never pointed the finger at Earl or Daniel's mother, who lives on the property with them, or even Daniel, who, if Malaya's story is to be believed, she can't alibi. She was apparently in and out of sleep when the kids disappeared. But there is another reason I paused at this point, and that's because Malaya has been insisting that the kids either wandered off or were kidnapped, but when it finally comes time to say what she thinks happened to them, she has no idea. And that specific answer of a mother of a missing child saying they have no idea is typical of hoaxers, and that's because they don't want to reveal any information. Mothers of missing children typically have thousands of ideas of where the kid might be. In fact, it's the only thing they can think about. Where might they be? But parents like Malaya and Daniel, Casey Anthony, William Turrell's foster parents, Jen Soto, Stephen Stearns, Summer Wells' parents, Madeline McCann's parents, Sebastian Rogers' parents, they have no idea. And finally, what do you make of Malaya's story that the glass door was so quiet that it didn't wake her or Daniel up when the kids opened it to sneak out and then closed it behind themselves? Well, I'll play you the exact sound it makes when it's open and closed in a moment, but first, just remember that we have other senses besides hearing. Patio doors can rumble the thin walls in a trailer so that people feel vibrations. The suction of the opening and closing can be felt in the air pressure, not to mention all the sounds of the outdoors when the door is opened, which gets silenced when it gets closed again. All right, let's listen, and this clip is from my video analyzing Janie McKenzie, Daniel's mom, who lives on the property.
We've heard a lot about the patio door.
Okay,
Yeah, so let's go see that.
sure.
So this is the patio
This
door
is the patio door
that Jack and Lily would have
that Jack and Lily came out of.
And so tell us why we've heard about the patio door.
Because everybody's saying on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok that the patio door makes a noise, and why they didn't hear the door open. The bedroom is back there. Okay,
That far window.
the
there.
last window is the bedroom.
The reason people talk about how much noise that sliding glass door makes is because Malaya Brooks Murray, Lily and Jack's mom, used it as part of her alibi. According to her, it's completely silent, which is why she didn't recognize that her toddlers, Lily and Jack Sullivan, had wandered off outside on their own. So the fact that it does make a noise pokes yet another hole in her story. But her story's already a slice of Swiss cheese, so it's not that interesting. What's more interesting is Janie's reaction. I would have expected a truly innocent person to be at least a little bit suspicious about that. Malaya's entire alibi hinges on whether or not that door makes noise. Come to think of it, I haven't even seen Janie comment on the fact that Malaya doesn't live on that property anymore. Right after the kids went missing, she did one interview and then disappeared. One obvious explanation for why Janie isn't curious or suspicious about any of this is because she actually knows what happened. Whether she was filled in by Malaya and her son Daniel to help in the cover-up, or was involved right from the beginning. But even more telling than the things that Janie seems to deliberately ignore, like the sound we all just heard, are the things she seems to deliberately address. You can watch the rest of that video in my Lily and Jack playlist, which I'll put on the end card. We still have plenty more to break down in this expose, so if you want to do a part 4, let me know by liking, commenting, and sharing. Until next time, stay true.